Well, the comment period for the ATF's updated rule concerning traveling across state lines with firearms, and they've got more than 4,000 comments to pour through. Now that deadline has come and gone. Welcome back to the States. I'm Greg Bishop. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, it's a federal agency that falls underneath the Trump administration's authority. And back in May, they proposed the rule clarifying interstate transportation of firearms under the Gun Control Act. Now, what exactly this rule does, for people who don't necessarily understand the rulemaking process, Congress will pass a law. Maybe it's a sentence or two. And then the agencies impacted by that have to craft rules to further expand upon what Congress laid out. So this is an updated, clarified rule that the ATF filed May 6th of this year. And they say the rule is to clarify that for purposes of transporting firearms interstate, any activities that are reasonably necessary to transport, such as staying overnight in hotels, stopping for food, fuel, vehicle maintenance, emergencies, medical treatment, or transitioning between modes of transportation, all considered part of that transport, thus protected by the Gun Control Act. So they say that the proposed rules also address transporting ammunition and firearm accessories between states and the requirements for securing firearms during such transit. Now, with that comment period closing yesterday, they show over 4,170 comments received at regulations.gov. Now, explicitly, what these rules do is they expand and they codify what counts as protected transport. Any activities reasonably necessary or any kind of additional incidental continuous interstate transportation, well, it's going to qualify as protected transport. Now, what does that include? Well, overnight stays and temporary lodging, stops for food, fuel, vehicle maintenance, emergencies, medical treatment, also switching between modes of transportation, like going from your car to a plane. Now, of course, with those various measures being proposed, you've got comments that are going to be pouring in. And we'll touch base on some of those comments. But first, the ATF, they said in their documents why they're doing this. And they said it was meant to clarify that existing guidance and to protect that continuous travel of individuals exercising their Second Amendment rights to keep and bear arms, but doing so interstate, from one state to the next, where there may be varying different degrees of gun control laws. And also they wanted to make sure that they made clear as to the vehicle to airline check-in process without interruption, but it did not clearly cover common real-world delays and overnight stops or breaks in travel. So that's why they brought this new rule to clarify things. So this new proposed rule aims to reduce uncertainty and potential local enforcement risks for lawful gun owners traveling through restrictive jurisdictions. That's according to the ATF. Now, something else this proposed rule does is, again, it covers ammunition and firearm accessories like magazines that are typically transported with firearms. Previous rules did not have that clarity. But again, the rules filed back in May with the deadline for comment yesterday, it secures that particular issue when it comes to those accessories like magazines. You've also got the secure storage parts of this particular rule, and those are also clarified, noting that the firearm must remain unloaded and not readily or directly accessible. Now, this is consistent with the vehicles rules, which was included in previous ATF rules. So for travelers, what it does is it provides clearer federal preemption against conflicting state or local rules while people are traveling. But it reduces the risk for when it's necessary for an overnight hotel stay or gas station visit, again, according to the ATF in their rule being proposed. So with the comments now closed, a lot of different announcements being made. You've got Second Amendment Foundation Director of Legal Research and Education, Costas Morris, saying that the Constitution and our historical tradition demand that the ATF get these proposed rules correct. Fortunately, he said, for the most part, they have. The proposed rules are, overall, in accord with the Second Amendment, and they appreciate the opportunity to participate in the process and urge the agency to finalize the rule rather than restrict the rights of peaceable citizens. Different take from gun control advocates. It's not a easy issue for them. They wrote the comments for the proposed rule saying that it would dramatically expand this protection to include overnight lodging, food, and fuel stops, vehicle maintenance, transfers between modes of transportation, passenger pickups and drop-offs, and other activity incidental to the original transportation. And they worried that it would also extend the safe harbor to a non-exclusive list of attachments, accessories, and other items like magazines, feed strips, stabilizing braces, weapons-mounted sights, optics, slings, holsters, and firearm cleaning kits. And in a letter the U.S. Senate Democrats wrote to the ATF, they said as a whole, the proposed rule would transform Section 926A into a wider federal preemption regime than Congress ever intended. And in doing so, they wrote, it would create serious risk for public safety, both on its own and as it vitiates critical state and local gun violence prevention laws. U.S. Senator Dick Durbin said the rule risks displacing legislation such as in Illinois, the Protect Illinois Communities Act, without adequate assessment of the state firearm laws, public safety impacts, or law enforcement burdens. But that law that Durbin mentioned, it's already been found unconstitutional by a federal district judge in one case, and a separate case challenging Illinois' gun ban is being considered by the U.S. Supreme Court. That case out of Cook County, along with gun ban challenges out of New Jersey and Connecticut, could be decided by the U.S. Supreme Court as early as next year. Now, on a separate issue where people can carry firearms, the U.S. Supreme Court's already recently ruled on a Hawaii rule that restored rights of individuals to assume that they have the right to carry firearms somewhere unless there's a sign saying firearms are not allowed on that property. So clearly, what happens with this proposed ATF rule about the transport of firearms across state lines, including being able to stay at a hotel or go into a restaurant for food or a gas station, vehicle maintenance or emergencies, we'll see exactly whether those rules get modified because of the more than 4,000 comments made and what exactly that final rule will ultimately look like.